Wonderful. I think we're live, Mille.
Great.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you?
Wonderful. I'm very ready.
Good.
Welcome, everybody, to the webinar of today. My name is Pete Buriel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Develop Diverse and Lyser. We are writing software that is supporting companies with inclusive writing, especially in recruitment communication. Many of you may know us. If not, let us know. We'll be happy to talk more. But today is really not about me or our software in any way. We're not really going to talk about software at all, actually. But we are going to talk about attracting neurodivergent talent, the whole hiring process from A to B. How are we including neurodivergent talent, and how may we be excluding them? So that is the topic of today. We're very happy that you all are joining us on this. We've been looking forward to it.
Very much.
I think I can talk for both of us
Yes.
on that one. Before I put it over to you, Mille, because you are going to be the expert of today, I'm so happy you could join us. We are only here because, of course, we want to have the conversation with all of you here and enter some interesting conversations with all of you. So we also would really appreciate your input in the chat. So you should be able to access a chat where you can ask questions, where you can come up with observations, reflections, share whatever you want to do on this. I think we're all here because we are interested and want to learn more within these conversations. So please share, please ask your questions in the chat. Mille, very quickly, I think I could spend a lot of time on introducing you. I've been knowing you for a bit of time now. This is the second webinar we do together, and we just had to do a follow-up because I think there were so many points that we still were missing last time we did this. So, but could you please just quickly, who are you and who is Specialisterne?
Yes. Well, my name is Mille Frydensberg, and I'm the Business Service Director of our business services in Specialisterne. And for those of you who doesn't know Specialisterne, Specialisterne is a company with 20 years of experience of bridging the gap between neurodivergent talent and the labor market. So what we do is that we find people who has the autism advantage, and then we map them up, we matchmake them with companies who are in need of talents that does something special.
Wonderful. And I know a lot of the companies we work with have worked with you with great success as well. We're going to go through different topics today. We're going to go through both, just to also maybe do some myth busting a bit. What is neurodiversity? What is it not? Neurotypical, neurodiversity, neurodivergence. There's a lot of sort of words coming around. This is becoming more of a hot topic as well. What does it actually cover? Because it is an umbrella term there, and how do you work with it at Specialisterne? But before we get into that, I just there's something here behind us.
Yes, there are some ducks because
there's some ducks.
Yes,
like real. This is ducks.
These are.
Can you all see it?
Little Lego ducks built in different manners.
We can bring it a little bit closer as well.
Oops.
Some of them are some very different ducks.
Yes, but all ducks. So what I asked Peel and her company to do was to build a Lego duck. So everybody got 6 blocks. You got the same task. It was quite simple. The task was build a duck as you think it should look like. And you thought to yourself that everybody would do the same duck.
I was sure that we would not include this in this webinar at all, because we would all do it the same way, because I did it this way and it could not possibly be done in any other way. That is the truth. I was thinking that I'm not proud of that right now when I see it, but it was a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it was. And there was actually around 9,000 combinations of building these ducks. And maybe you saw that, but some focused on the beak, some focused on the legs, or some focused on the feet. So they're quite different, and there is no right and no wrong. And it's just to illustrate that when you are giving a task of building ducks, 6 blocks, well, you solve the task quite differently because your brain works differently. So that actually leads us to the first, how does the brain work? So all brains are different. All brains are neurodiverse. The majority of us, that's somewhat 80% of our brains, works in a similar manner. So that is the way we analyze, we understand a task, the way our executive function works, the way we handle feelings or stress. So that could be one way of looking at it. Those who derive from the majority, those we call the neurodivergent. So those are the ones that could be either have ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, or autism. But there's quite a difference from being dyslexic to having autism.
Yeah.
So it's just there is like a normal distribution, and those who are out in the very ends, both ends, those are the ones we call neurodivergent, because the brain doesn't work the same way as the neurotypicals. So that's just a way of describing or illustrating how brains works differently.
Yeah.
Giving the same task.
Yeah. And I think because a lot of the times what I hear is sometimes I get the question is, but how can you generalize with such a big group?
Yes.
Right? It's such a different group, and you just have them under one term.
Yeah. And maybe you shouldn't. But when we have a tendency that when we need to categorize stuff, we need to generalize quite a bit, maybe stereotype quite a bit. So in order to figure out what is in that category and not in this category, we do it with male and female.
Exactly.
And sometimes there's something we can't quite place, then what do we do with that? So it goes all the way back to Aristotle, who did the categories. What is hound? What is human?
Yeah.
So we do that, and by doing that, we need some traits that are quite characteristic for that category, and that becomes stereotypical when we describe it. So even when I'm going to describe in a little while what is ADHD, what is dyslexia, I will also generalize.
Yeah.
It's quite important that we are all different, and when you have met one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. So we have a stand-up comedian who is kind of our Specialisterne stand-up comedian because he's autistic. And he says that just because I know one person called George who likes maybe hot dogs, doesn't mean that everybody named George like hot dogs. Yeah. So it's the same being autistic. Well, you might have some traits and maybe not some others.
Yeah. Yeah, or generalizing with maybe female ethnicity, saying everyone from Germany is always on time. Well, you can't really generalize like that, right? It's always
not all of Germany is on time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
But it is a way for our brain to understand what is what. So we do that when we are navigating in everything. So knowing what it is that I see in front of me, well, that we use the categories to categorize.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I don't know, does it make sense to go a little bit deeper? So what are these different categories? Yeah. What is the difference?
Yes, maybe we should talk a little bit about what the different traits are, different traits, the challenges, but also some of the great stuff, the assets that we see. So if we start with dyslexia is the difficulty in reading letters, sometimes also numbers. But what we see is that when you're dyslexic, you have other abilities that are quite strong. So people who are dyslexic usually have quite a strong creativity. They have this ability to see things in 3D or imagine things in 3D, which most neurotypicals has quite a difficulty doing. So we find that in architecture, for instance, there are more people who are dyslexic than maybe in other fields of working. So it is an asset. So even though your brain has a difficulty in one skill set, well, it has an ability in another. The same goes for ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We could discuss whether it is a disorder, but it is a brain that works differently. So they have the difficulty with focusing. Yeah. So it's a fluctuating focus because they also have the ability to hyperfocus at times. So, but keeping the focus could be one of the things that they have a difficulty with. But we also see that they are strong in problem solving. They are fast in problem solving. They're good at reading the room. and they're a little bit more brave than the rest of us. So it might be those people that we need to be courageous in saying, for instance, there might be a country on the other side of that big ocean there.
Yeah.
Should we go there by boat?
Yeah.
And then we have the autistic people saying, should we then have a look at the boat in order to see whether it's good enough? Because the autistic brain looks for details, it looks for patterns, it's very strong in pattern recognition, to process large amount of data. So where the rest of us, we kind of see an overall picture, they see much more pixels than the rest of us. But then they have challenges. Some of them has challenges with reading social cues, reading the room, reading between the lines, reading implicit language. So, for instance, a sentence like, could you look at this by tomorrow? That is not very concrete, and that could be quite a hard task to engage in, because what does that even mean? Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's a lot of media attention to some of this at the moment, and have been for a bit of while. I think when we have looked at neurodiversity as well within our software for probably 4 years now. When we started, we had to really explain, what is this umbrella term? What does it cover? And it was new for a lot of companies. But my experience is today, a lot of companies are working with this, which is great.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of myths.
Yeah, there is
going on.
Yeah, and it is because of that generalization that we talked about before. So it's so much easier when we talk about autistic people. We think about Rain Man, who had these servant capabilities. So there was something that he did quite good, but he was also quite awkward. Not all autistic people look like that. It could also be from De skjulte talenter, where we saw a girl sitting underneath a table, and she couldn't do her task unless she had one of these safety vests on in order to feel secure. But most neurodivergent people look just like you and me, and they actually walk around, they have family, they live in apartments, they have educations, everything. The brain just works a little bit differently. And at Specialisterne, we usually think not of neurodivergency as a disability, but just as another ability. So it's not a disability. What disables people who are neurodivergent is the way that we have organized and structured society today. So the barriers that we have built for people whose brain works differently, that's what handicaps them. So it's not the brain itself, but it is the structure of society. And that actually takes us to the how to engage. How do we get access to this pool of talent?
Exactly. Because I think for me, as you're talking here, I think, of course, I've also read a lot of the papers that you that I know that you're also using as Specialisterne, right? So in theory, I know the benefits, but also from what you're saying here, there's so many benefits. There's just, there's so much to gain from having this pool of talent. But also, honestly, most of us will have employees today that are in the spectrum in some way or the other, right? So today we'll talk mainly about the recruitment process and how do we both engage them, but also, how do we spot the barriers that we might have set up? Because as you said, it might be sometimes the system that we have in place. So we'll go a little bit chronologically here. So we'll actually start with attraction, and we'll end with sort of the retention. I was about to say, in Danish we don't use this word anymore, but I think in English it's still right. Right, and then we'll end up with the questions and everything in the end. So please continue to ask your questions in the chat. We will get back to those by the end. But with the attraction, actually getting out and making sure we can attract the talent that are the best qualified for it, which may be someone on the spectrum in one way or the other. What are some of the obstacles? What is the system that we have set up today that may not favor this group of people?
I think it actually starts before hiring people. So the way that we structure our work, our job descriptions, is that we need to generalize all the job descriptions. So you need to be one who does a little bit of everything. So we have taken away the specialists, unless it's on a very high level, but you're not a specialist within a small field. You need to both be a specialist in doing something. You need to talk to stakeholders. Maybe you need to engage with the customers also. Maybe you need to co-work with somebody in research and development. I don't know, but maybe it's not the best of everything, that you need to do a little of everything instead of doing what you do best.
Yeah.
So maybe as a place to start is to look at the tasks that you want people to do. So if you want them to look at Excel sheets, do they then need to also be good at talking to customers?
Or PowerPoint shows.
Or PowerPoint shows. Very good example, yes.
Yeah.
So that could be one thing, starting there.
And I know that you have experience with this as well, Mille, because you were actually in recruitment as well.
Yes.
And that's, of course, why you're the perfect person to have in on this webinar too, because you've both been sitting with Specialisterne, focusing on neurodiversity, but also on the recruitment side, agency side there.
Before I knew anything about neurodiversity, and I did all the mistakes.
Yes.
So that could be, for instance, in attracting, and I was looking mainly, it was headhunting, so I was looking for specialized talent. So that could be a developer within a very specific tool. But writing the job ads, I could be the one writing. So you need to be the specialist in, say, for instance, JavaScript. I would write, you need to be a rock star, because I wanted that special moment of attention, because reaching out to maybe hundreds of people, and I needed the one. I could write stuff like,
and why is it a problem to be a rock star?
It's not a problem to be a rock star if you are a rock star. But if you're not a rock star, it is quite a problem, because a neurodivergent developer would think, but what does rockstar has to do anything with JavaScript? What is it that I don't understand in this sentence? So they would say, well, I don't even play the guitar, so how can I ever become a JavaScript developer? So that would be one of my mistakes that I made.
So the figurative speech, the metaphors,
yes, exactly. So we need to be a little bit more literal. We need to be specific on what tasks is it that you need to be done, and not all the nice to have, just the need to have. Because as a neurodivergent person, you might read the job ad and you have maybe 7 criterias, but you only need 3 of them. The rest could be nice, but the neurodivergent talent would look at it and say, well, I can't do this job, obviously, because I don't do 4 of them, so I shouldn't apply.
So I think it's oftentimes, I think most of the people who are sitting on here might agree to say, yes, that makes a lot of sense. But then they go back to their organization or they go out and try to implement it themselves, either because you're a hiring manager or you work within recruitment, HR, talent acquisition, whatever it is. But then you're like, oh, but then I have this other hiring manager. I have this, it's harder to implement. So what is your advice? What is the one thing you should focus on in the attraction? If we just only focus on that early on, before we even look at the candidates.
I think it's the focusing on the cookie cutter syndrome. So there is no ideal candidate, and we can't just have one cookie cutter cutting out the same what is it called, cake person, using that cookie cutter. So that's the idea of, we have a person that is good at PowerPoints, Excel sheets, developing, talking to whatever. That doesn't exist. So where is it that we can cut a little? And especially, does this person really have to look like you? Do we need different solutions, or do we just need one prototype duck that is layered over everybody?
So if I do the cookie cutter, I'll mostly just, because Pete left the job, right? I mean, but I like Pete.
So you would like to have another
So I
Pete.
just want another Pete.
Yes.
So I just do the same job ad as I put up whenever I hired Pete.
Exactly.
Right? Which was full of rock star and everything.
Yeah. And you got Pete.
And I got Pete. So I was,
and now he left.
And now Pete left.
Yes. And maybe there is only one Pete, and maybe it's not Pete that you look for actually. But so as a talent acquisition manager or whatever, you should actually maybe challenge that with the hiring manager. So what is it that you need? Because you can't have Pete with all of his personality and traits and whatever. So what tasks do you need to be done? What is it in particular you would like to get done.
Yeah.
And maybe you should actually look for something that you don't have. So
Yeah.
it shouldn't mirror yourself. It should mirror or not mirror, actually, it's just fill in the gap of what it is in the team, because we know that a neurodivergent team creates stronger solutions, better solutions, especially if we work in a complex world.
Which we all do, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure a lot of you attending this will also look at implementing, whether it's AI or implementing new technologies. And imagine you only have people who view it the same way, then your technology would look like this instead of,
and that was the ugliest one.
No, none of them are ugly. You said there was no wrong ones, right?
True.
But then otherwise you might have gone a solution that looked more like this, right? So it's just I think this exercise actually, I did not expect this, Mille. No. When you gave me this, this was Mille's work on giving me a home task here. Homework. And I learned something as a leader and also as a hiring manager, right? This next time, think about, okay, in theory, I understand that diversity drives innovation because we see the problem from different angles, but this really exemplifies it, right?
Yes, and it's so simple.
Yeah.
So it's a great way of showing that you need diversity in your team, and that's why that when you hire people, you shouldn't hire people who look like yourself, because you already have one. So you need to hire somebody who are different, and that's what tricks us, because every time something is different, we have a tendency to think it's wrong. Or it's, you said yourself, you thought there was one, right?
Yeah, I just assumed that everyone would do it the same way.
Yes.
Because I had some of my blind spots, right?
Yeah,
and because we all tend to look for things that look like ourselves and look like what I do, and assume that we are right? Without realizing the bias on that.
So the cookie cutter syndrome is one of the things to challenge.
Be specific. Challenge the cookie cutter syndrome.
Exactly.
In the attraction. But then now we have the candidate applying.
Yes.
So we go to the next phase. We go to sort of starting assessing the candidates that come in.
Yes.
So now we really invested in making sure we include all talent, also neurodivergent talent. We were specific. We avoided metaphors. But then what? What are the barriers then when we are, assessing the candidate that come in?
Well, we have sometimes a tendency to think that people should be able to react on the spot in the interview in the best way. But in order to embrace neurodivergent talent the best, well, you should send out the questions. I take it that they're not, there are no, I think every question is out in the open, so there's nothing very strange about the questions that you will ask. Send them out. Maybe send a photo of yourself so they know what to expect, because then they will not have to use time thinking about that. Send a picture of your house, the office that you're in, tell them whether to go left or right. So as many details on how to get there. If they don't need it, they will just not take it in. But for those who do spend time on thinking about, how do I get there? What does it look like? Do I need to turn left or right when I enter? And what am I going to prepare? And also set up maybe we always settle for a concrete task that they need to do. And they need to do it in advance, because we need to prepare. Yeah. So all of us prepare every time we do something. When we visit our clients, our customers, we are prepared. Yeah. When we enter this meeting, we prepare. We have millions of papers on the table right now. You can't see that, but we do.
Can't see that.
We practice before starting. Yeah. So obviously we need to be prepared, and our neurodivergent talent will perform even better if they have the chance to be prepared, knowing the questions, how long is the interview. And just a funny little anecdote from my time being a recruiter. I always thought that I would settle maybe 30 minutes for the interview, and then I would go over time. So I would use maybe 40 minutes, because I thought that gave the impression to the candidate that they were quite important. But the neurodivergent talent would just sit being all anxious about us going over time, not performing in the last 10 minutes, actually maybe talking themselves down because they would be so anxious about the time. But I thought I was doing them a favor. So
I didn't realize that. That's a really that's really interesting.
It is.
Which can make sense to some of us, right?
Yeah, it makes so much sense to me, because I would go out myself, cookie cutter syndrome, thinking, oh, it was such a great interview because we went 10 minutes over time. So they were so interested in me.
Interested. Well, yeah, okay. But, let's just imagine a world where we are, I don't know if anyone online does this. I'd love to hear it. If we share the questions with the candidate prior, I think that's a huge sort of,
yes.
I don't know anyone who does this. And then everyone that I know and have talked to about something similar down the lines is, but then everyone will just use ChatGPT and they'll just be ChatGPT answers.
Well, you can't talk ChatGPT. So I don't think so. Yes, you can get ChatGPT to answer your questions, but questions like, what have you done prior in your life that where this task was involved, ChatGPT doesn't know what I have done before. So it needs to be, we are curious about the candidate, obviously, and their skill set and how they gained the skill set and how they work. So we are not curious about the right answer. We are curious about their answer.
Yeah. So there's also something in how do we form the questions and prepare them, because one thing is that you can use ChatGPT. Everyone can do that these days.
Yes.
But it's very obvious if you didn't do any work yourself.
Yes.
I think from my own experience of also interviewing candidates, right? I think it's very obvious.
And being neurodivergent, using ChatGPT and getting all these flurry answers with all the colorful wordings would not be very, it wouldn't match the way that they're talking, the way that they're behaving. So they're the words that they're not using would not match what they were saying. Yeah.
So is AI that's used more and more in recruitment, is that good for this candidate, for neurodivergent talent, or bad, or neutral?
I can't say as a fact, but I have an opinion about it.
Yeah.
So most AI is trained on neurotypicals, obviously, because it's 80% of us.
It's majority. Yeah.
So it is not trained on those who derive from the majority. That means that they would stand out as awkward, not fitting in. I see when they do personality tests, well, they become quite strange. The reports afterwards that you're supposed to use, because it's actually mapped up against the majority, which is the neurotypical.
Yeah.
So being neurodivergent, well, autistic people, that's 1 to 2%. There is no chance that any other of the respondees look like yours.
Yeah. So the bias that's built into the algorithm, and also maybe in the usage, might be not favoring, or maybe favoring neurotypicals, but then
it will
not
be favoring neurotypicals.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't make you give you access to that talent pool.
Yeah. That's a very good point. So if we have where we rely a lot on AI, we may be missing out on this. So that could be a barrier as well.
Yeah.
So auditing AI, how we do personality tests, how do we do interviews, making sure we actually give as much information as we possibly can
beforehand,
prior to the interview,
and
also throughout, I suppose. The process.
So maybe also trying to say, so what is the process from now to the end, and then of course following up, and that's that process. So if you promised to give answers on the 13th, well, you do provide an answer on the 13th.
Yeah, wonderful. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of hoops to go through here, right? Now we're just assuming. Now we all heard this, so we do this. We fixed attraction, we fixed assessment, so we are fair in this process. So we hired someone from this group. We were happy to attract someone that's within that's neurodiverse in some aspect. I'm very happy. It's a very good match, and very good addition to the team. Now we're talking about, retention, onboarding. I know there's a lot of the work you do with Specialisterne as well. So what are some of the barriers there?
Well, apart from the interview, which is actually one of the greatest barriers, I think also the onboarding is one of the barriers, because we tend to do it as one size fits all.
Yeah.
So we want to onboard and welcome people and make them part of our team. That means that we spend maybe 2-3 weeks on onboarding, on social events, on stuff like that's not very specific, not very concrete. And that could be actually quite draining for a neurodivergent person, not understanding what is it that I'm supposed to do. So we always advise companies to have a pile of tasks that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Something that they can start on, and then they can start working, because that's what that's what they want, as it is one person, or I'm generalizing too.
Yeah,
but we see that focusing on the social skill set is quite challenging for people who are neurodivergent starting a new company. It is for all of us. So, but if you don't read the room very well, you don't read the hierarchies, you don't understand the lingo that you're using, you use so much of your energy instead of doing what actually it is that you're supposed to do. So that could be one thing that could be a good point. So just
because Specialisterne, you also have your consultants out, and you actually make sure that they're onboarded, right, and support the companies on doing that. So what in that process, what is it that you help with?
Well, we help focus on. Yes, we help with the onboarding. So we help providing the first days to make them feel secure. And actually, we are tagged along with the candidate, the consultant, so that they have somebody who's coaching them. That could be on the littlest things, as it's difficult for me that I don't have my own seat. It's difficult for me that I have to take the bus. It drains my battery. But it's also for the employer and the body that we support them. So we make sure that they have somebody to ask. And I usually say that managing neurodivergent talent is not difficult. It's just different. But you need to do something differently. So having a person to spare with is actually a great support for you, and makes you feel a little bit more safe, maybe in what it is that you're doing, or at least have somebody to phone a friend and ask, so am I doing it right? Should I consider something else? So that's what we're there to support.
Because that's also talks into the retention part. If we do the whole sort of process and employee life cycle, right? Because I mean, if you don't get this right, then I suppose you'll quit. Right? If you're a good employee, qualified, very good at your job, specialist,
or get sick, because we see that
okay,
neurodivergent people would try to fit in the best they can. They have done that their entire life, so they actually have two jobs. They have the job that they're hired to do, so that could be software developing, and then they have this other job, masking, pretending to be neurotypicals. So having a online meeting, they would look at the screen and they would see what are the other ones doing, trying to read their facial expressions, trying to do the same themselves in order to fit in. So they would try to do whatever it takes to be part of the group, because we as human beings are a group, or a part of a larger group. We want to fit into the group. Yes.
That sounds, you can imagine that's tiring, right?
It is tiring. So it's also part of the job for the for the manager of neurodivergent talent to be inclusive in that way, that you can create that psychological safety that can embrace the differences. So you can be at work as your entire self. You can be who you are. And well, it's easy because coming from Specialisterne, it's given that you're neurodivergent and the team has awareness sessions.
Right?
Yes, but as 20% is neurodivergent, well, there will be some in almost every company.
Exactly.
So
and I think a lot of us won't know, right? As a manager as well.
Even. Exactly. But creating that room where you can talk about differences, not necessarily labeling it as diagnosis, but just talking about, well, I function this way, I understand message best this way. So not everybody understands a verbal message the same. So maybe somebody would like to have it in writing, somebody would like to have it both in writing and verbally, but we tend to think that the way we want it ourselves is the way that everybody wants it. We tend to think there's only one type of duck.
And we just talked about in the team yesterday, we're saying, if I were to then describe how I did my duck to my colleague, I think it would not be built the same way either, right? Because I would say, I just build a beak, and everything. But we know now there's many ways of creating a beak.
True.
So it's also, how do I communicate? I feel like I'm very clear. But then, how is it? I also need to take responsibility of how it's received and how it's understood, or make the room to say,
And we have seen maybe some of the videos where you see a dad is asking their children to describe how to make a peanut butter sandwich.
Yes, I love that.
And he does exactly what is said.
Yeah.
And it's all wrong. So describing how to build a duck can be not necessarily leading to a duck.
We're time is really flying, Mille, when we're having fun. So before we go into the questions, I have just the last thing here for me. You know, I think a lot of companies, all of the people who joined today are interested in this topic. So what is your one advice, either for if it is to get started, build the business case, to get the resources internally, to actually, you know, make sure that we are including this group, which is 20% of the entire population, or to get started with this topic altogether, if you don't have the resources?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, you shouldn't do it because of charity. You should do it because it's good business.
Yeah.
So there are so many benefits. We talked about the neurodiverse teams creating innovation, greater solutions, but we also see that retention rate is stronger. I just need to look at my papers because I need the figures. So you will have larger engagement, 55% larger engagement, research says. 65% greater innovation, also research, and less turnover. So being in a neurodiverse team where you embrace everybody will actually mean less retention. Also higher productivity, and all that leads, of course, to lowering recruitment costs. So there are so many benefits. And I'll just add, if you want the sources on the research, please write me, because we'll have lots of sources showing this.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm just looking at the questions because there's actually you really are good at keeping the chat alive. So please make sure we're going into the questions. There's one that asking whether you can share the resources or the sources, that you have.
Sure.
Because I can see the sources from here. There's a lot of them.
Yes. So I'll just write me either on LinkedIn or I'll write you afterwards, and I'll send you the sources on the research.
Exactly. I just need to make sure I see the questions here. How can we know if we're dealing with a neurodiverse candidate?
Yeah, we can't unless we have.
Are we allowed to ask?
We're not actually.
Yeah.
So we can ask questions like, is there anything you would like me to know about you that makes it maybe a little bit difficult to conduct your work? There is also these, I support the neurodiversity, the sunflower thingies that you can wear as a recruiter. But I think as a manager, it's about creating that safe room, or the psychological safety where you can bring all of you together, all of you to work.
Yeah.
And I don't think necessarily we need the diagnosis, because it is traits. So at Specialisterne, we don't care. You just need to relate to the diagnosis of autism, because that's what the traits that we are selling. We sell the autism advantage.
Yeah.
So you need to relate to it, but whether you have a diagnosis or not, we don't care.
Yeah. And maybe it's also, I don't remember if it's you, Mille, who told me, or someone else, but also what benefits the group with the neurodiverse, right, will also benefit neurotypical.
Yes. True. So if you're a manager and you want to do good for your neurodivergent person, well, it will benefit everybody, because what the neurodivergent person needs, the rest benefits from.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that is also, we should maybe be asking all of our employees, and I forget as well sometimes being a leader. So I'm not trying to say that it's easy, but sometimes maybe if we focus on how everyone works the best.
Yes.
And try to find out that conversation,
exactly.
then everyone can benefit from
that.
Could be
anything. It could be, do you prefer working from home?
Having noise canceling headphones?
Exactly. How do you prefer messages? How do you want me to describe your tasks? How often do you want me to check in on you?
Yeah.
How do you want your feedback?
Yeah.
And even how do you want to answer your feedback?
Yeah.
So I have a person in one of the companies. She says that she doesn't want to respond to feedback before the next day, because she needs to it needs to dig in before she can respond.
Yeah. And if I don't know that as a leader, that might be, oh, why aren't you just? We might be clashing, right?
Exactly.
On that, and because I'm in an authority position, it may be to my benefit and not to the other person's
and they
benefit.
will try to answer something that because they
think I want to hear
something. Yeah, exactly. Guessing.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. Very good. So hopefully you feel like that one has. There's one here. I'm trying just to look through the questions.
So many
There's a
comments.
lot of good comments. Thank you everyone for doing this. I don't know if is this a question in the end. I love that you're chatting with one another.
It's so great.
I love that.
While you're reading, I'll just add
please
that,
please
do. If you have questions that you don't feel comfortable putting in the chat, or we didn't have time to reach, just write me or write Pil. I think we're both on LinkedIn. I think we are the only ones with our names, so we are easy to find.
Yes, that is true. Yeah. There are more Mille, aren't there?
There are more Mille, but not Mille Frydensberg.
No, that's true. Yeah, we'll share the full name. Of course, you have that already. There's one here from Grant. Is it worth splitting job adverts? So back to attraction, a bit that we talked about in the beginning of it, into need to have and nice to have. Would that help?
Yes, that will help a lot. But I think if it's nice to have, do we need to have it in the job ad? Like, why is it there then? Because there are so many things that are nice to have.
Yeah, it would be nice if you also play hockey, like I play hockey. And
exactly. If you could put up a great Friday bar afterwards. So I'd say the less is more. So the more precise the job ad is, the more can relate to it, instead of all these fluffy things that you don't know whether actually is a bonus or is something that I need. Do I even have to apply for this? Because all these nice to haves, I can't respond to.
Yeah. And if you also look at the intersectionality, which I know that we also have talked about previously, right, but not addressed too much in this webinar specifically, but on the spectrum or anything there within the group of neurodivergent talent, you also look different, as you said, right? Yes. Even on the autism spectrum, you look different, but you're also a woman, you have an age, you have an ethnicity, you have an education, social background.
So many things to put in the pot.
You come with your full baggage. Everything that is you will look different than the next person, even if you are on the spectrum in the same way, right? And of course, also when we look at the job ads, the data from Develop Diverse also shows that when we are having a lot of nice to haves or a lot of cliches, metaphors, not only does it affect neurodivergent talent negatively, it also affects women, underrepresented ethnicities negatively, older population, people with physical disabilities as well. So it's about how do we take people as the whole person into consideration, not only their neurodiversity in that way, right? So the job is actually really important, and so is the rest of the process, obviously. But if we don't even have them apply.
Exactly. So you need to enlarge the pool of talent that applies to your position, and then you can pick and choose the right person. And the larger the pool, the greater the person you can choose.
Exactly. Let me see if we have another. It's chatting. Let us know if you have any questions in the chat, please. We're trying to sort through them. If you have any other points, please feel free to share.
Sure.
You can also, I think we're actually running out of time. So Mille, where can I find you if I'm interested in hearing more? And is LinkedIn the best way to?
I see somebody has put in our Specialisterne in the chat, so you can find me at Specialisterne. You can also find me at LinkedIn. I think it's quite easy to find me at LinkedIn. So,
but I know you do a lot of this practical work.
Yes, I do.
All together. So that's also why we joined you for this webinar, because we also decided, with Specialisterne, you really have that in-depth expertise about this area.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining. This has been
Thank you for
wonderful.
having me. Thank you for keeping up with the dog challenge.
I think we did well.
You think you did so good.
It taught me more than I thought. To be honest, I can recommend everyone to do the duck challenge.
Yes.
I didn't expect that I would be confronted with my own biases to the extent that I did.
It's a simple thing, but it's a
and I've worked in this area for a long time,
Yes.
right? And still I'm surprised. So I thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to all of you who have joined this webinar.
Yes.
Really appreciate it. Let us know this is recorded. You will all receive the recording automatically. Let us know if you have any follow-up questions. We're always available
Yes.
for that.
True.
Thank you, Mille.
Thank you. And thank you for
Thank you all.
joining.